What we have here is an A-level sketchbook from a current A2 photography student based on the exam question, New Realities. I'm just going to go through the sketchbook, just showing you how she started it, to hopefully give you guys some ideas when you're making your own sketchbooks. First off, she's just started with looking at a few images of inspiration off the internet. Google searches, looking on Behance, quality websites like Flickr, iStorm to try and get a little bit of inspiration. It's also a really good idea if you look at sketchbooks as well. Look at sketchbook practice just to inform your own as you're going through. It will help give you ideas for when you're making your own sketchbook. And you might pick out something you weren't aware of. Always start off with a mood board if you can, just to show the examiner what your intentions are and what your ideas are. Even if they change halfway through the exam, it's still great to show what your plans were in the first place. Little bits of image analysis really help, as long as you connect it to an artist and as long as you keep talking about your exam question or theme. Just on this next page here, what's happened is this student has analysed an artist image here with post-process information, and that basically means that she then talks about what she could do after she's taken a series of photographs to then create something similar. Visual connections here, what those are about are those are just showing different, again, artist images which she's going to use to create her own new reality images, which eventually we'll start to look at teacups. I'll show you a few of them at the end of the video. On this next page again, more mood boards going on. It's quite nice that she's actually been a bit more insightful on those, talking about how many hours it's going to take to create a long exposure and a star trail such as this, and also talking about, again, back to a question based on new realities. Really, really good. Then she's got these images here, which are, again, just a little bit more in depth from her mood board. Just go on to the next page. She's done a little project plan, a bit like a spider map, a bit like a mind map sort of thing. That's what she's done on that side there. Just helps to show the examiner what your ideas are. It also helps if when you're talking to your teachers or talking to your mates or what have you about any ideas you have, it's always good to go back and revisit that as well throughout the project. One good thing about this book, not just these cheeky clips, is the way that everything's tabbed and organised. When the examiner comes to look through this book, it's really clear, because of the labelling that's on the side there, how to, what she's actually done in the way that she's done it. The corrected images are shown underneath here, whereas if you go to the raw and pattern stuff, it shows like the whole thing. She's also used this little key to show what the changes are that she would make to those images if she got them in Photoshop. And then she's just then clearly shown the examiner which ones she thinks are the best ones that she's going to take forward. Just on to the next page, got another set here with pouring liquids. Now that all relates back to her artist trying to create something where she's having things pouring out of cups, happening in cups, and then she's then going to change it later on. Now these bits here, it changes from the cups into a location. The location that she's picked are just basically images that act as a stock or a bank of images, which she's then going to use and layer later on with the rest of her work. But make sure I get this paperclip on, she might go a bit mental if she sees it. All right, next one again, another starting point set, just location 2, waterfalls, things like trees, flowers, anything that could be used to layer in to the work. Just another set, location 3. It's clear to see, like one of the assessment objectives, it's all about starting points. Has this person took different sets? Have they gone to different locations? Have they refined that idea? It's quite clear from this that even though it's early on in the book, yes, they have. And again, talks about this bigger bank of images here that's going to be needed. That will be needed if she wants to create images that are a little bit more in depth. These ones here by artist links to Jerry Yulsman and Jim Kazanjian. Jerry Yulsman, very, very famous for multiple exposures, darkroom processes, creating layered images, but using darkroom technique. Whereas Jim Kazanjian uses everything from his own images to stock images from the internet to create these like sort of false creations of reality. But because they're so sophisticated in their use of placement of objects and textures and tone, they look almost realistic. Okay, next page. Starting point, ink drops, going away from landscapes and locations, back to the cups, and then what she's done there is tried to capture it quite fast speeds there, trying to capture like the exact movement of that water to use as layers later on. It's also great if when you're talking about this, you can talk either about what you're going to do to correct these afterwards or the sorts of speeds that you're going to need when you're taking these photographs. Always try and be technical about your aperture and your shutter speed to show the examiner you actually have an understanding of what's going on. Even down to talking about that you're definitely going to need a tripod. And also, the use of focus as well. You might often need to set a manual focus point on something like this because it might not be good enough on auto. These ones here, it doesn't all of a sudden change to birds, please don't panic. These are just 2 sets which then again use as layer material for later on. Every set again, analysed, explained, everything makes sense. These ones as well, the bubbles, they were supposed to give you a little bit of a textural quality, and the bubbles were supposed to mix and extend out from the cups along with the marbles. Just now going on to the glasses, back to the cups, a little bit of a nod of the head back to the artist image there. That's what she's decided to do to show this other mood board before she then moves on to what she's then going to do with those images. Now, she does actually have this board at home, so I've seen evidence of that, and then she's took photographs of this to again layer in with the rest of the work that she's taking. It's going through again. Little standalone pages like this, where you're just literally showing the image without any writing, are a really good idea. You want to vary it for the examiners so she's not going to get bored or he's not going to get bored as they're looking through your work. These two here, again, more good examples from those last sets that were just taken. I've just gone to this one, keep going through. These little arrangements, just showing your ability to crop and combine. And also, this is the sort of thing I like to see here. It's great just to show off technical flair. And it's just a print screen from Windows, if you're using Windows, or if you're Mac, maybe figure that one out as well. And then just print screen it. It helps to explain in your writing what's going on. Next couple of pages, this is when it starts to develop, in the style of the artist beyond that starting point. These little luggage labels just add a little bit of extra insight on what she's done on this. And it just reads, on this further development, I've created a staggered arrangement that shows the process of how the image was developed. Because the reality with the tree and the birds overrides the more subtle link drop reality, I decided to make a stronger focus. So it's just explaining what's going on, using the birds from previous images, the cups and everything else to create something unusual. And with each thing that's been done, the smoke's been used from, and then the boat has also been used in there, just to create almost like a little bit of a storm in a teacup. That was the idea behind there. Okay, moving on. This is where it gets quite interesting as well. It's quite nice that she's actually going down a bit more of a black and white route rather than just using colour. It does guarantee that if you do have any colour differences in your images, it doesn't become a massive focus. By keeping it black and white, it also adds to the sort of the unreality of the situation, and you're not distracted by different colours. I'm not going to take these clips off, but there's an awful lot of other developed images under there where they've tried different combinations of trees, the smoke, the birds, everything from landscapes just into there. Then it starts to take a bit more of a fantastical sort of magical turn where she's using the bubbles, birds, the boats and the cups all combined together in one developed image. And what the idea was in these was some of the waterfalls would be pouring into the cups, which would then pour out onto other landscapes. This was one of her other developments, which was then taken forward later on as well. Sometimes don't always take things from the same angle. Always think about taking things from a bird's eye view as well as your standard sort of views or from underneath or whatever have you. Depends on what you're taking photos of, really. Ink trails, again, starting to get more banks of images together, and these are developments in glasses instead of cups, which relates to one of the previous mood board images that's on there. Better just check it's recording. Yeah, it is. All right, moving on, development 7. These ones here, again, layering, being just very sort of like simple layering on Photoshop, just using rubbing and layer modes. But it's the sophistication of the placement of each of those layers that really adds the little bit of magic and the little bit of sparkle to these images. A little bit of colour creeping in doesn't particularly disturb me there, and it's quite nice that she's then trying a different format, not just using the straight standalone sort of like standard sizes. She's trying something a bit longer just to create that illusion of space and a bit more sort of landscapey qualities to the image. Again, more developments. Development 10 we're on to now, so it's quite clear that this person is incredibly confident in what they're doing. They're showing off their sort of the skills and their flair in Photoshop, as well as their flair using photographs. Just on this next page now, it just shows this one here, little visual connections where what this student has then done, they've then explained little bits about that book in there. Really, really helps out just to show the examiner that you're capable of analysing what's going on. Things aren't happening by accident. Arrangement on the table as well, it just says on this one here, development 11. And again, it's just another really, really cracking little set. These books are used generally as a means to show off the assessment objectives and evidence what's going on, and then sort of more quality prints are then printed to go either outside of the book or at the end to show a final piece. Just on these next few pages I was going through, back to, she's talking here about bad images. Don't always be in a rush to talk about your good ones all the time. Talk about your bad ones. Say what went wrong so you can show how you then refine it in the future. Just say it on your assessment objectives guide. Just make sure you have a little cheeky look at them. Don't just go through and hope for the best. This one here, this artist, again relates to new realities, but then what's going on here, they've got like paper origami sculptures in actual real life scenarios. It is based around an artist, but I'm not going to pronounce it and make myself sound like a fool on the video. I will hopefully, if I can remember to put the name in there, it's Dimitri something or other. Just on these origami ones here and in here, it's just showing what the intentions are for that. She then goes on to make the origami, and it will similar to the artist link. Just as a little cheeky extra there, she's then put step by step how you make it and how you fold it. It's quite good, just shows that thorough approach and shows a really methodical way of developing your ideas. She then later on uses those in the work. These ones here, using acetate, sometimes don't think about just printing on paper all the time. What about acetate? What about different textured surfaces? And see how they might work and how they might impact on what you make. Here she's layered those origami images into the layer she's made, as well as keeping standalone shots to layer later on. And this bit here as well, this is an acetate artist image, and basically called Vanessa Marsh, who creates these layered images in her work to show like a staggered landscape. And I think that was one of the ideas behind what she was then intending to do with that. She's just took a little tangent, which is really nice here, getting some arts-based skilled into what's going on. Jamie Nichols, it says here, 16-year-old illustrator, blah, 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 found on Behance, recommend Behance, it's got to be the daddy of all sites. And if you look at this here, it just then shows step by step how they've then took an original image, inverted it, and then just used that then as an actual layer property in their work they're making. And in this case, that's what the student has done here. Done a drawing, inverted the drawing, and then used that as a layer just to give that personal extra little touch in the work. And it all really helps that it's explained as well. So when you get over 30 like I am, things are made very clear for you. All right, these ones in here, this is cellulose thinner development, and that's just where you can image transfer using a chemical to transfer layers from laser copied images onto another surface. That is absorbent. It won't work on things that don't have an absorbent texture. And the chemical has then transferred the image, which gives it quite a scratchy look. Those can then be photographed, relayered into the images, and again it's compared back to an artist as well. So for AO1, she's really doing all she can to explain what's going on there. This one here, just final piece ideas. It doesn't matter that they're sketchy. It's the fact that she's communicating. She has an ability to say more than one thing on one little sort of big page here. And that's what she's done. And if the examiner sees that, it just shows that capability and that ability to generate ideas. This is one of the things she did on the exam day. She projected onto a mobile that she made of paper cranes, and then she projected her own images that she developed on Photoshop. They were projected to create images like this, which were a new reality in themselves. The actual little origami cranes did exist, and then they were having the unreality image that the student had made projected onto them. Can't believe I didn't mess up when I said that. All right, last couple of pages. These are just showing an example of that mobile at the same time as that her favourite projected images from that set. And if you can do, at the end of every unit, without fail, try and evaluate what you do. I call it a rationale, that's what my students call it, and it just rationalises, explains what you did, why you did it, how it relates to your question, and importantly, how it relates to those artists. It really, really is essential. Oh, there's a little bug there. Let's not talk about that. All right, and also this one, artist connections. That's a really, really key one. Let's simply show your artist, then your image developed in their style. My guys also do like a little cheeky montage and layer just to break up those stages. And again, just with a little bit of explanation there. This page here, no writing, no nothing, just simply a visual account of what's gone on. I call that doing a contents page, or you might want to call it a glossary if it's at the back. And just on these last ones here, this just shows that little bit of experimentation on the last day. This is what she did in her exam. She had a spare 45 minutes, so what she did, instead of just giving up and not doing anything, she took pictures of teacup, coffee rings. She then developed the idea, instead of like the previous ones, and then layered her images, which she'd then taken into the coffee rings themselves, which was a great little touch, great bit of experimentation, and a total tangent from what she did. So it shows that she had big balls on the day and she didn't just give up. Now, that's the end of the book, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put, just on this page here, just some of the other sheets which she then printed off. These are just sheets that we keep outside of the book just to show the examiner what you're capable of and what that sort of student is doing in terms of their assessment objectives, as well as larger prints which you constitute as final pieces. Those just help to show the examiner what your quality is and what your image selection is and what you think is your best image. But most of the time, by the time you've got to the end of a book like that, you can see it's a student that's got bags of quality. And to do that in an exam, quite a lot of work, but hopefully you agree if you're watching this video. It's definitely been worth it. I've omitted showing some of the bigger final pieces where she's done larger acetate pieces of work, because it's just going to be too big to stick on the camera. I don't want to move the camera just in case it all goes wrong in Hong Kong. Alright, I hope you found that video helpful, and even if things are changing to A level and not A2, it's still helpful to see what good work looks like. Okay? Cheers guys.